All right, welcome everyone to the first in our series of List Literature Conversations, where we're starting the conversation around literacy in Lake Tahoe. We started a new organization called List Literature with a mission to ignite the love of reading in every child. We value creative ideas, empowered readers, and reading culture. This organization started out as a call to do random acts of kindness this fall. And together with our book club, we sponsored book purchases for several classrooms in our elementary schools. And now we're expanding to help complete classroom libraries for our English teachers at our middle school. And we're calling this Lifting Spirits Through Literature. So we're really excited about what we're doing. We want to grow this and especially support teachers and classrooms through the hardships of 2020 and beyond. And we just want to think of creative ways to bridge learning gaps from 2020 and keep our teachers and students and families encouraged to keep learning. So if you want to find out more, you can go to liftliterature.com or follow Lift Literature on Facebook or Instagram. So today for our first conversation, I have the pleasure of talking with my good friend, Melissa Benavidez. She is a third grade teacher at the Magnet School. She's been teaching for 10 years. She went to Chico State and got her credential at Sierra Nevada College, and she's working on her master's in education and leadership at Western Governors University. And her passion just lies in technology and her love of literature circles. Welcome, Melissa. I'm so excited to talk with you.
Oh yeah, I'm so excited to be here. Melissa squared.
Yeah, Melissa squared. We're both. We call you Mel B. I'll be right. Melissa. So Mel, tell us your story. Where did you grow up? What made you want to become a teacher? We just would love to get to know you a little bit.
Yeah. I grew up in the Central Valley in a little town called Oakdale, California, the cowboy capital of the world. Self-proclaimed, right? So I grew up there, and my love for learning and actually reading really grew from my grandparents. My grandma and grandpa always just had a plethora of books and always had access to that. And actually from a very young age, I cataloged the books into my own library system and had like a checkout system for my siblings and my cousins. And also I always had to be the teacher, and I made posters, and I had this whole classroom at my grandparents' house. So from a very early age, I knew I wanted to be a teacher, and that really sparked just from my love of learning and continuing knowledge. And that's kind of relevant in my own life now, is that like I'm still pursuing my education. I always am learning and finding out new things. And so it was really a lot my grandparents that kind of promoted that type of life for me as a child. Not to say that my parents weren't great, but that was just really the place that like I remember the most with books. And then also from there, I'm the first person in my family to go to college and graduate from college. Yeah. And so part of that was I had a really amazing teacher. Maybe she'll watch this. I'm friends with her on Facebook, but Miss Leffler. She was my teacher for art history and for just regular history, I think world history in high school. And she just like pushed me and said, like, you can go to college, you can do this. And like without her, I maybe would have made it there, but I don't think I would have been so adamant to just go right out of high school. And so, you just have that one profound teacher that really makes an impact in your life. And so that's kind of my backstory, and well, not really my backstory, but how I got into education and kind of my love for learning and reading. But we came to Tahoe because my husband and I were living in Colorado Springs, and we had no kids at that point. And my parents had moved up to Lake Tahoe because we just always loved it here. I mean, who doesn't like to vacation in Tahoe? So they made it their home. And the fire academy was starting at the community college, and my husband was leaving the Army. And so my parents said, hey, you guys should move to Tahoe, and Jody, that's my husband, could go to the fire academy at Lake Tahoe Community College. And so they went to the orientation, got him enrolled, and we moved here like 2 weeks later from Colorado, and we've been here ever since. And so my husband now is a firefighter for the city of South Lake Tahoe. And I started substitute teaching initially, and then I got a job at the middle school as a technology aide, a classified staff for setting up the computer lab, and then also just substituting and helping the kids, and actually running a program called Read Naturally out of the computer lab.
Wow.
And then I went back to school and got my teaching credential at Sierra Nevada College, and did some long-term subbing at the magnet school, and then was offered a job 9 years ago there in the 3rd grade. And so now I'm teaching 3rd grade. I went to 4th grade for a while, and now I'm back to 3rd grade. So yeah.
That's so awesome, Mel. I love that part where you were cataloging your family's books. That's
yeah.
precious. Like you were actually like getting books out and like writing the little back in the day when we used to have the library cards.
My grandparents actually were very like advanced in technology. Like they had like an Apple computer and like an MS-DOS computer, like way before like anybody else around them did. And so I was like actually having like an Excel spreadsheet, like really into it, really cataloging books. And I mean, they had their entire wall, somewhat similar to kind of like yours, but even like every wall in the room was just filled with books. So.
I love that. And it just goes also to show you just the impact that grandparents could have on kids. I know my kids are just so fortunate to have their grandparents in town, and their other set of grandparents just down in Placerville. I just wouldn't know how to do this without them. So it's pretty wonderful. Mm-hmm. So here we are, 2020. And now 2021, I keep doing that. Feels like the never ending year. What's teaching been like for you this year? How are you doing?
Oh yeah, it's definitely not what I signed up for, but I'm a pretty adaptable person, and I feel like I kind of roll with it and try to figure out ways to make it easier for me and easier for my students and my colleagues. And so I kind of jumped right in feet first with the online learning in the spring of last year. And really, I felt like helped, and like I kind of specialize in technology. So kind of just we were just at a loss of what to do, right? And so I really helped like kind of get a format going for the teachers at our school, and, kind of tried to make it run smoothly for them, which it did. And, it wasn't great. But then jumping into this school year, I piloted a program where we simultaneously teach during the hybrid model. So I have, 2 computers running, and, teaching the kids at home and at school, and just kind of all over the place. I couldn't do it without like my amazing team, because I have like 2 other teachers that are really supportive, and we kind of just work together and take the load off of each other and kind of share the workload. But I do feel like I'm not reaching the kids as best as I can. And that's a real struggle, right? Like, am I doing a good job? But I feel like I'm doing everything I can, but hopefully it's enough. But, kids are resilient, and I'm sure that they will amaze us with their progress after we get them back in school.
I feel the same way, just as a parent. I feel like I'm doing the best that I can, and, and I know our teachers are too. And that's just like, that's all we can do this year, right. And it's just kind of going, you know what, we're just going to do our best. And we know that it's not going to be perfect, but in the end, we're going through this all together. Yeah. And I think at the end, we're going to come out just learning maybe some new things that we didn't know before. So like how you're talking about technology, what an advancement that's been.
Right.
So paint a picture for us of the student population at your school. What are the demographics? How do you think families are doing?
Well, typically the magnet school is a pretty high performing school as far as test scores go. If you're judging on academic performance, we tend to have the highest test scores in the district. That goes from, we really have a strong PTA and a strong parent involvement. So this year, I'm sure the PTA is doing the best that they can, but as everything, we can't have fundraisers, in-person fundraisers and things like that. So that has been a challenge. So I think the families are, some are thriving in this situation, and then some are just kind of just face planning in this whole situation. But
yeah.
I feel like the demographics at our school are changing also, because we've lost a lot of students to elevated, because typically we do have more and Elevate is the new online school for people that don't know. But so we lost a lot of students to that. So more students are able to get in, not on the lottery system, because we have a lottery system. So I think our demographics are changing, and I think we are getting more socioeconomic statuses that would need some more support than we had in the past. And so I think things are shifting, and who knows if they'll shift back, because when this all transitions back, it may just continue. I mean, those kids are still going to be there, but we may get back a lot of their other families. And our class sizes are really small right now because of that as well, because people choosing to keep their kids home or choosing to do the new online school.
Yeah, so it truly is just a mix, you know, of how some families are just able to just, because their work schedules and things, just cope. And I know others that I've heard of are just really struggling, you know, essential workers just having to get out to work and struggling with childcare and different needs. So really, I know throughout our community, even just talking to our middle school teachers, even at that level, especially, we're going to be doing an interview with her, just you know, there really is this big gap in need. And that's something that I know some of the projects we're working on is really trying to address, you know, let's make sure we're helping all the students, the ones that are doing fine, as well as the ones that are just really struggling, and bring them back in.
Well, and a lot of times other people are easier with coping strategies. So maybe you don't particularly see those needs, with those families. But definitely I feel the need for social connection, and maybe the books can be that bridge to kind of help connect the kids and make them feel a part of something. Would be a way to kind of lift people up.
Yeah. So how has literacy changed? So what do you think the students really need right now when it comes to accessing books and just their need to grow in literacy?
Well, I know there is a big need, my classroom in particular, I'm pretty well stocked with books because I got to have my classroom library because I got to continue that on.
Do you have it cataloged?
Yeah, no, I need that. I've looked into it before but I do know there is quite a deficit for classroom libraries and access to books, especially there aren't any library times at the elementary level right now. So kids can't go to the library and check out a book. I do know the public library is open, but again, that's not always accessible. So if you move grade levels and you don't have that particular group of books available, then you kind of just piecemeal. People give you stuff, you get old books, and you kind of just build your collection over time. So that's what happens. A lot of times people get moved from, say, they're in kindergarten and they get moved to fourth grade. They have no books that are fourth grade books. So I know that having a really well-stocked classroom library is really important. And then also just they can't go to the school library. So I've been speaking with the librarian about maybe doing a time when she could go around and do like a mobile library and kind of do it on a cart and come around to the classroom so she can kind of give kids access to books that they might not otherwise have. And there's no book fairs. I know book fairs are every kid's dream, but because of the toys, maybe not the books, but the books too. But there's no book fairs, and that's a big way that kids get books. So as teachers, I know a lot of us are still sending home the little Scholastic book orders, and I have been getting quite a few of those. I still let my kids borrow books from my classroom library, and I just set them to the side to quarantine or isolate them when they come back, or whatever. But it was funny today because a little girl was looking in my library, and I was like, oh, you can take a book home if you want, because I won't see her again till next Monday. And another little girl goes, oh, you can take those books home? And I'm like, I just forget we haven't been in the classroom, so they don't know my procedures and standards. I'm like, yeah, go ahead and borrow whatever books you need. So yeah, I feel like it's just kind of a weird time right now, as far as access to books.
Yeah, kids, they're not going to the library. They can't go to the library because of the interaction. And it's really up to the teachers to be able to provide books, and whether or not, different teachers are going to have different levels of access themselves. And it becomes on the families to purchase. I had a friend of mine coworkers of mine say that her student couldn't get access to the books that she needed. And so she just had to go out and purchase them. And for some families who are struggling financially, that's just not going to be on the list as it should be. Like they need to take, if you're struggling for other kinds of needs, buying books for your kids probably isn't going to be at the top. So there definitely is an equity issue there as well, just wanting to make sure that kids all across the board are getting access to the literature.
And I would say it's not equitable in the classrooms at different schools, but based on the teacher, you know, and it's not by any fault of the teacher, it's just kind of circumstances, you know, so. And
that's just one thing that has really come to light to me that I'm excited we're helping to address. So just as a parent, I've just really become just fascinated with this idea that if we ignite the love of reading in our kids at a young age, it's really going to benefit them academically, emotionally, socially, just for their entire life. And I know every time I like kind of get excited about this around teachers, they're like, sister, you're preaching to the choir. This is what we do. But for me as a parent, this has just been like, I've become more engaged in my kids' education this year because of having them home and just trying to learn myself on how to get my kids literate really has really just ignited this thing in me like, wow, I want to get this information out to other parents because what literacy does for kids is so powerful. And I was recommended a book called The Book Whisperer by some of the teachers at the middle school. And there's this quote in there that just stuck out to me that I wanted to read. I just thought it was really powerful. It's, reading changes your life. Reading unlocks worlds unknown and forgotten, taking travelers around the world through time. Reading helps you escape the confines of school and pursue your own education. Through characters, the saints and the sinners, real or imagined, reading shows you how to be a better human being. And that just like, given everything we've been through this year, 2020, that's what we want to give our kids. We want to give them real life experiences that are exposing them to other ideas, real or imagined, and just help them to be a better human. So and so reading does so much more. It's so much more than academics. It just opens our minds and our hearts to the world. So given the challenges faced by our students during this time, you know, what does reading do really? Like I was talking to you earlier, you're the expert. I'm just kind of learning this. Like from your expertise, like what does reading really do to help expand students' minds?
Well, I mean, kind of it's the foundation for all learning. It goes along with like, a lot of kids, you know, sometimes you'll get those kids that will be like, I hate reading, but they love like science. And, you know, and I'm like, well, you have to have that foundation of reading in order to be good at science. And so I feel like they said in the quote, you know, it kind of just opens and unlocks, and it's not necessarily a lot of times, you know, when we speak of book clubs and novels and things like that, we're thinking about relationships and more fictional characters, but also it's a building block for all of our nonfiction subjects of social studies and science and even math. I mean, you can't read word problems if you can't read well. And so I feel like it just unlocks a whole world of if you love reading, then it makes all of those other things easier for you. And then it also provides an escape for kids, like reading a story and something like that provides entertainment and an escape, especially besides technology, because we have so much of that like screen time addiction and things like that. So actually just like reading a book and escaping to that. But I feel like, you know, there's so much research out there about your reading level determines like your success at a certain age, or, you know, whatever that may be, how many books your parents have in their home, like is an indicator of success, how many words you read, how many books you read. And I know that's a lot with the Book Whisperer. I've never read that book, but I know there's tons of research out there that shows you like that is reading is a definite indicator of later success in life. And so I feel like not only does it unlock those things immediately for the kids in their lives, but also for the future. So.
And one thing like that really stood out to me in that book is that like reading is really an accrued skill. It's not something that you just one day you know how to read and then you're just off to the races reading. It's really something that you have to gain over time. So you have to read a lot of books, right? Like kids have to read a lot of books in order to get really good at it. that Book Whisperer recommends like for her students like 40 books a year. That's more of like the middle school level. And really reading lots of books is going to start off with them reading books that are just interesting, like even like comic books. Or like my kids love like Pokemon, you know, book things. And like just even getting kids reading high interest things that they can just really practice with is just a really good start, that, you know, from what I understand. And then as they can move through just a volume of books, they're going to grow and be able to take on some of the higher level literature that we hope that they can experience as they grow.
Sure. Yeah.
So,
oh, go ahead. You can.
Yeah, no, that was just that's just what I'm learning. I know I'm preaching to the choir.
Just the access to different types of print is very important.
Yeah. And so what can parents do to help their kids with literacy?
I mean, really just like providing them, making reading time an important time and focusing on that, but also not making it a chore, right? Like making it engaging and fun for them. And I've experienced that with all three of my kids. They get to a point where they don't want to read because they can see it as homework and as a chore. But then you start picking up books that they like, or you start taking turns, like, let me read to you, because it's okay to read to your kids, you know, like a lot of people think, well, then they're not reading it. Well, but listening comprehension has been shown to improve reading comprehension and improve reading skills. And it's really important to hear what a good reader sounds like. And so it is important to read out loud to your kids and spend that time. So just making kind of reading special and trying not to make it a chore. Also allow your kids to see you reading for pleasure. So
which is so hard to do because they're like jumping everywhere.
Sure. Well, I mean, occasionally, right? Like, or just they know like that you read books, like, oh, yeah, I just finished reading this book, like speak of it in a manner that is exciting and like, oh, I really like this book that I read, you know,
and maybe talking about it at dinner.
Yeah, sure.
You know?
Like they don't have to actually, I mean, if you can't visit, because a lot of people read at night or whatever, but like, see them, like let them see you reading and know that like reading doesn't have to be done only for school. Like it can be read for pleasure. I'll never forget, I had this one kid in my class and he was eavesdropping on me and my other colleague talking about book club. And we were talking about book club and talking about the book we had read. And he looks up at me and he's kind of leaning his chair and he's like, wait, you guys get together and read books for fun? But he was a prolific reader. I mean, kid was way beyond reader, but he just thought it was just his own thing that like people didn't share in reading. And he was like so impressed for it. He's like, so I can join like a book club?
Like, so cute.
I'm like, yeah, you can join a book club. But like you can you know, you can read with other people.
Yeah. I know for me, it's like reading with and having our book club, and also just my husband and I, you know, we'll read books and talk about them and stuff. It's such a great way to connect with other people because it's almost like you're having this like shared experience. Like, you know, it's almost like you have the same friends, you know, you know, the same people because you've all experienced this book together. Or sometimes you meet people, like we grew up reading the Chronicles of Narnia, and like you meet other people who love the Chronicles of Narnia from their childhood, and you're like, I know you, you know, it's just you, you know, I know the lamppost and Lucy, like you have this like connection, and it does just like open up not only who you are, but just who you connect with. And, you know, I grew up in a small town. I haven't traveled a ton. I haven't got to do, you know, I haven't seen the world necessarily, but you can travel through books and you can know about the world through books. So it really is just this powerful connecting piece. And I love that your student was just
amazing.
Do that. And just
really
giving that to our kids. Like, we can enjoy reading. It can be part of our lifestyle. And I'd love to see that in Tahoe just become something that is part of just more widespread throughout our culture here.
Yeah.
So last question, if money weren't an issue, what are some creative ideas that you have that would increase literacy in our schools?
Any word I'm trying to think. Well, I would say that you get like when you became a teacher in a certain grade level, you get like bought a classroom library, like a specific set, like whether it's from Scholastic or whatever, like you teach 4th grade, here is like a pre-made classroom library for you, like to all set up in your classroom. I think that would be ideal. I mean, that's not really creative, but it is
Well,
like,
that's kind of what we want to do with this, is be
right.
maybe an outside
So
source to do that.
they have like things like that from Scholastic, you know, it's like maybe like $1,000 and it's just like a pre-made book library for your grade level and like ready to go.
Good to know.
Yeah, so they do have those like packs already ready and you could just buy them and then it would be particular for that. I would say I guess it's not, I don't know if it's really creative or it's something like where money would be involved or something that we could even do, but something that really had a profound impact on me when I was in high school was my social studies. So all my history classes aligned with the books that we're reading in our language arts. So like if we're learning about American history, then in your language arts class, you would read like The Great Gatsby or Huckleberry Finn.
Okay.
And I thought that just had such a profound effect. So I guess like thematic literature, and then also just like maybe some kind of
coordination.
Yeah, within the district. I know we're kind of lacking on that. And something that you'll find after you start working in education and you see schools and the way it happens is things are hard to keep going, right? Like people think of things and they start a committee and then you start these projects, but then people change their jobs and then it's just hard to keep it going. Leadership changes. And then so you can't keep these projects going. So I know we did have a literacy committee started up like last year or maybe, the beginning of last year, but then we now have a new superintendent. I don't know if that's continued. So that would be really cool to have something like, alignment throughout the grade levels. Like this is the book that you read. And we kind of have that already with the language arts, but language arts, like it's a very scripted program. It would just really be nice to have like certain books that were assigned to like certain grade levels and things like that. And so when I taught fourth grade, I really tried to do that. We read By the Great Horn Spoon as a class novel. And the PTA bought me class sets of those books, but it's a book about the gold rush. And, you're learning about the gold rush. I mean, the kids learn more from that than they do from their social studies textbook, like
for sure. It's putting narrative to that story. Yeah.
So I mean, as far as like, I think creative ideas that would be the classroom library, like would be something like that. Also, obviously sending teachers to some type of professional development surrounding literacy and reading and things like that. So I know the funds are limited and things like that aren't happening right now. So
and that's like one of the reasons why I want to start these conversations and how we're starting this Lift Literature is what are ways that we can come together as a community and throughout the wider Lake Tahoe region, raise money and let's do these things that you guys want to get done. It'll benefit our entire school district, from the youngest to the oldest. And I'm trying to get people on our board that are from the different, elementary, middle, high school. So maybe there is maybe a piece of that continuity that we can, kind of begin to play that role a little bit, as much as we can. So I love those ideas. Thank you so much, Mel. So we're just going to end this with, just for fun, a rapid fire questions. I listened to Brene Brown podcast and love them. They're not exactly her same questions, but they're close. So this is just for fun to end up. So
I'll be thinking right now.
It just is a one word answer to one of these questions, and then we'll move on to the next. Okay. So fill in the blank. Literacy is
essential.
Love it. What's the last book you've read?
Read completely. I'm trying to think of the name of that book. You know what it is.
Did you read book club books? Are you talking about the book club?
Yeah, book club book. The Pack Horse Library.
The Golden Hour. Wasn't that the one we just read? Oh,
what's the Pack Horse Library one?
Oh,
Give Her of the Stars.
Give Her of the Stars. That was a good one. Give Her of Stars. Yes, I read that. We read that together. Okay, favorite book genre?
Historical fiction. Well, that's 2-word answer, but.
Well, yeah. Okay, what's the last show you've binged and loved?
Outlander.
Yes. Give us a film you really love.
A Beautiful Mind.
Ooh, that's a good one. I haven't seen that one for a really long time. Give us a concert you'll never forget.
Black Crowes.
Was that here?
We've seen the Black Crowes quite a few times. That's like one of our favorite bands. And our daughter's named from one of their songs, Josephine.
Oh, I didn't know that. I love that. That's so special. Okay. Favorite meal?
Sorry.
That's okay.
We have a puppy.
Oh, puppy. Oh, introduce your puppy.
This is Mr. Stetson. He's in play mode right now.
He's so cute. Oh my God. You guys can follow Stetson on Instagram.
Yes, follow Stetson on Stetson the Golden Pup.
Stetson the Golden Pup.
Stop. He's off. He's gonna go down now. Favorite meal. Oh, gosh, I have so many favorites. I'm kind of a foodie on that thing. Well, I actually say favorite meal. The favorite meal that I just ate was a it was a pan fried cod over like a potato puree with a lemon beurre blanc sauce. That was like so good.
Oh my gosh, I'm so hungry right now. That sounds so good. That's so fun. Okay, give us a snapshot of an ordinary moment of your life that brings you great joy.
An ordinary moment that brings me great joy. I would say probably I'm trying to think of what snapshot. Probably just like that moment, the morning time on the weekend when you're just kind of like relaxing, sitting on the couch and drinking coffee, and the kids come down for the little morning snuggles. That brings me a lot of joy. And probably just sitting, like I was just sitting on my front porch, sitting outside in the sun.
Enjoying. I know.
Watching the kids play.
Especially this time of year. It's just like we're ready for sunshine. Okay. Last question. What's one thing you're deeply grateful for right now?
Right now? I would say my home. We built a new home last year. Beautiful. Well, actually almost 2 years ago, but it's definitely bigger than our last house. And so I'm really grateful for the space during this time. Spent so much time at home to have like 2 living rooms and have the space that we can spread out and kind of be, just have space.
Yeah, exactly. I know there's such a premium on nice space to be with your family. Well, Melissa, thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
Your insight and everything you're doing to help with Lift Literature. And we'll talk soon.
Okay.
All right. Bye.
Bye.